It's 8:25 in the morning on Monday, March 27th, 2023. And we're moving to the last row. The cows are not really enthusiastic about moving. Maybe they don't see the need for it. All right, here they come. Here's 24 leading the charge. Look at her. Triangle's all filled in. Starting to lose her ribs. So this is about 180 feet wide. It's a little less than the last row, but I think there's plenty of grass. They'll get a lot done. Right now I'm standing in a bunch of hairy vetch, and over here there was a different type of grass. I don't know what it is. Has like a thicker blade. I don't even know if it is a grass. Maybe one of you guys knows what this is. Yeah, I'm not convinced this is a grass. Anyway, lots of stuff growing here. And mildly annoying news, I think what happened was the bulls got tangled up in the net that was using to keep the sheep and the dogs together, the sheep and the puppies. And so the net's down, the sheep are out, and the puppies are out of control now. You can see the puppies are over here. So that's annoying news, frustrating, annoying news. Not depressing. Nope, just annoying. It's about 50 degrees, 51, 52, something like that. There's not a lot to do. Today is not going to be hot. I think it's going to get in the low 70s. Yesterday was nice and warm, but today is not going to be like that. If I remember the forecast right, tomorrow is going to be cool. It's going to be in the 60s. So we have some cool weather here. Here, let me put the fence back together. Oh yeah. We still don't have the fence on. The power is still cut. There we go. There, that'll hold. I'll take this pigtail post down too. I don't need it anymore. Trying to put tension with one of these plastic posts is a fool's errand. They bend really easy. So I like to use the pigtail posts when I need to put tension on the wire. So they can hold the wire off the ground, but that's about all they're good for. That's all I need them to do. So win-win, right? Greg Judy put out a video yesterday. It's a 14-minute video, but I think it's well worth a watch. He talks about why you need small cows. The problem is if you're in a climate like Greg Judy's, which mine's kind of similar, it just doesn't get as cold, and the warmth lasts for a great deal longer as well. If you're in a Greg Judy climate or my climate, you get mud. So for several months out of the year, you get lots of rain and the ground turns to mud, which is good if you want to raise grass. Problem is the cows, they have to walk in that mud. And some farmers, they handle that by taking the cows off the pasture during those months. The problem with that is you need to have a place to put the cows. You need a way to shuffle that manure away from where you keep the cows back to the pasture, which is where the manure needs to be. You need to feed those cows, And it's just a problem, right? Ideally, you'd leave the cows on pasture the whole year round. You wouldn't have a barn. You would let them do their thing. If your cows are large, then they will create pug holes with their hooves, and that will destroy your ground. It'll take years for it to recover. I've got a couple spots in my pasture where the ground is bare because the cows were there when it was wet, and they trampled the grass into nothingness. So the solution is to get small cows, right? Nobody cares how big the cow is that their state came from. And nature seems to appreciate smaller cows rather than larger cows on the pasture. So, smaller cows. Another topic he brought up is about farm profitability. And kind of something I've talked about a little bit before, but when you have some money, it's your duty to manage that money well. And any resource that you own, you have to make it increase. There's in the Bible, there's the parable of the 5 talents, where the master left and gave one of his servants 5 talents, another servant 2 talents, another servant 1 talent. And the moral of the story is what you're given, you have to multiply. You have to produce. You have to generate wealth. If you're consuming wealth and not getting a return on it, any kind of return on it, then that's a major issue, because eventually you're going to run out of stuff. Or, if things take a turn for the worse, then you'll run out of stuff quicker than you expected. So the question that I ask myself is, if our budget got tight, would we cut the farm? And if the farm's making money, the answer is no, you won't cut the farm. If the farm's not making money, then you got to cut the farm, because it's consuming resources. It's like a hobby that you're wasting money on and you're not getting any kind of return on. When times are tough, you cut the hobby, you don't cut your source of income. So how do you make your farm profitable? Well, it's a simple equation. You have your inputs and you have your outputs. You just have to make sure the cost of the inputs is less than the income from the outputs. If you're spending $5,000 a year on the farm and you're making $10,000, well, you're winning. You're making profit. And you got to think about the total inputs, not just the fertilizer or feed or whatever, but things like diesel and fuel. Sometimes we don't consider that as an input. It is. And you got to, what is this cow doing? Get off. You got to consider your time as well as an input. And this is something that I struggled with when I was doing startup businesses when I was younger, because I always thought, we'll make money through profit, or we'll make money through increasing the value of the business. That's where I make my money, right? Well, that's true, but you're not getting paid in the meantime, and you got to put food on the table. You got to, write your mortgage check and things like that. So anyway, you got to consider your own time as well. And in this case, I'm considering the cost of a gym membership as part of the outputs, right? I get out here, I exercise every day. I'm forced to exercise every day. It's much better than a gym membership, because if I don't do what I'm supposed to do, animals will get hurt and they won't be healthy. So they rely on me to do the things I'm doing. Another input or output, I guess, is that the mental health. I'm a lot happier out here looking at grass and trees than I was looking at computer screens and desks and walls. So you got to consider that as an output too. So consider all your inputs, consider all your outputs, and then you got to do the math and see if you're making money. Now, the nice thing about the Greg Judy system is he has very, very, very few inputs. He uses a little bit of fuel. He uses hay that he buys from his neighbors. I don't know what price he gets, but I imagine it's a pretty good price. And I understand the way he wrote his contract with his neighbors is he said, hey, I'm going to pay you more with the understanding that when there's a hay shortage, you still give me the hay. But when there's a hay surplus and the price falls, I still pay the higher price because he needs the hay. Like he's like, I can't survive a year without hay because I rely on it. And he called it fertilizer, natural fertilizer. He uses the hay to build pasture, to maintain pasture. And so that's one of the inputs that he has. In my operation so far, I didn't buy hay last year. I bought a bunch of grain. I got to consider the cost of the grain, you know. Now, right now, this year, I have 4 calves that I might sell. I haven't decided whether to sell or not. I'm thinking of keeping maybe 2 of them, maybe 1. But those bull calves are the income. Look at that cow eating those leaves. Those bull calves are the income, right? Whatever price I get from them, that's how much money I made. But really, you got to consider the future income, right? This is a concept that people struggled with is when somebody goes to buy stock in a company, they're not gambling on what the company did in the past. They're hoping that the company will do well or better in the future. And so that's what you got to do too. You got to plan. You got to think about what's going to happen. Now for my operation here, this year, I don't expect to get any more calves, right? All of my cows should be open. I'm going to breed them in June or July, which means I'll get calves next year, right? So I do not expect any income from my farm this year. Maybe we'll sell some eggs, you know, we'll get a couple dollars here and there. So I got to be sensitive to that fact this year. But next year, I should have 25 calves, right? Something like that, you know, 20, 25 calves that are born in the spring, about this time of year. And I'll probably keep the heifers again. You grow the herd a little bit more. I might keep the best heifers and sell the ones I don't like too much. Look at number 20 playing with that wire. This just shows how full they are. They are not starved for food at all, you know. Oh, no. Now the cat wants to rub her head on the post. So next year, I'll have all those calves to sell. Maybe I'll keep 1 or 2 for meat, so I don't have to buy meat anymore. I don't know, maybe I'll find some buyers for the calves rather than going to the sale barn, which the sale barn is a last resort. I'd prefer selling it in a private sale, you know, to my neighbor if he wants it, if he can raise them and sell them. But more importantly, eventually I need to start building a business of selling the finished steer, you know, and that's the only way I'm really going to make money on this farm with the cows is to sell the finished steer. I don't really have breeding cows and selling them as a breed. If I had South Pole, you know, I could probably sell like every year, you know, some bred heifers or something like that, and bulls. You know, these are from Greg Judy's stock or whatever they were. If I had that, but these cows are not those kind of cows. I could put them on, you know, Facebook or whatever and say, hey, you know, these are my cows and they're totally awesome, but you know, not a lot of people are going to know or want these particular cows. So I got to understand that really the only value I'm going to get out of these cows is the meat. And I got to find customers. You know, I got to go out there and find people willing to buy cows from me, you know, a whole, half, or a quarter. And that's really where the money's going to come from. So it's not, my point is this, is you got to lower your costs and you got to increase your income. And that's same any part of your life, you know. If you're struggling financially, the answer is always to lower your costs and increase your income. You got to spend less money. You got to earn more. It sounds easy. It's not, obviously. You know, I'll give you a cost-saving tip here. Cook your own food. Stop going to restaurants. I run a food trailer, and I think I'm selling food at a pretty fair price, maybe a pretty low price for my area. But the cost of the ingredients is much cheaper than the finished product. YouTube videos that Gordon Ramsay and other French chefs, they'll teach you how to cook for free. They'll teach you how to use cheap ingredients and expensive ingredients. A little bit of butter, salt, and pepper, and a little bit of beef will make the fanciest steak you've ever had in your life. If you cut up some onions and fry them in that fond with a little bit of vinegar or whipping cream or pretty much anything you can put in there, and season it up just a little bit, and all of a sudden you got a really fancy sauce that you'd have to travel for miles to find a restaurant that would sell a steak with that kind of sauce on it, and you'd have to pay a lot of money for it. And that's something you can do for pennies, you know. So that's one of the reasons why I'm doing cows too, is I'm thinking about the income, or rather the savings I'm going to get when I eat my own cows. Can you imagine a cow raised on sunlight and rainwater, and then it ends up on my table? that to me, that's kind of a miracle. But you know, the inputs here, and what are my inputs? It's just a little bit of feed, hay. What else am I spending? My time, right? A little bit of diesel fuel. I don't have a big tractor. I don't use it every day. So I don't know. That's what you got to think about. Minimize your cost, maximize your income. And how do you do that? You got to budget. You got to write down on a piece of paper how much you plan to make, how much you're spending. Figure out where everything's going. You got to track it all. It's annoying, but you got to do it. You got to look at the numbers and go, oh look, that number's bigger than that number. That's bad, you know. So anyway, yeah, you got to make your farm profitable. It has to be profitable. And I think today's internet age, there's so many more opportunities to make money than there were in the past, and cheap ways to make money. Hey, 21. Cheap ways. I mean, setting up a website, like you see all those ads for like Square and stuff like that, or Squarespace or whatever. You know, there's a reason why they're advertising and they're charging so little, because that stuff is really easy to do. Just a little bit of know-how, and it's really easy to set up a website. It's really easy just to use email. You know, like nowadays email is so easy to use, and it's an effective marketing tool. You know. So, all right, guys, there's my little spiel. Go watch his video. Make some money. Don't waste your money. Have a great day. Bye-bye.